Well, hello. I'm back. Or maybe you're back. Hey, we're both back. Hey, thanks for joining me. I am Tim Laskus, and you're listening to The Tim Laskus Show, and this is episode 30. Woo! Oh, yeah. This is 30, and before I tell you about today's featured guest, she is a ball of fire. Hey, if you like what you're listening to, you like this show, just be sure to leave a review. Only a nice review. No, I don't care. You can leave a bad one if you want. No, leave me a good one. Leave a review and subscribe and share with one person that you know. My goal is to get onto the new and noteworthy in iTunes. We'll see if we can get there. I'm positive I can. But with your help, I know I will. So thank you. And today's guest is Bernadette Boas. And Bernadette is a ball of fire. She is a leadership coach, a keynote speaker, and an author. And she's got a book series. Let me tell you, my mama's, I hope she's not even listening. Here's the title of her book, Shedding the Corporate Bitch. Whoop. My mama is going to slap me for saying that word. She is not going to be happy, but you know what? Bernadette can say this. Bernadette has a reason. She has attracted readers from all over. And as a result of her blunt and honest take on leaders within the businesses, she has helped people improve their lives. She has shifted them in their careers, in business, and in life. And so stay tuned, get ready, hold on to your seats, get a cold glass of water because you're going to have to put out the fire. Enjoy.
The Tim Laskus Show, in search of entrepreneurial gold. Tim digs deep into the minds of his guests. Entertaining, down to earth, and informative. Now, here's your host, Tim Laskus.
Welcome, everyone. Today's guest is Bernadette Boas. Bernadette, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I look forward to the conversation.
Yeah, you were telling me that you've got an awesome dog and you love just hanging out at the dog park, and you're going to try to do this as much. You hang out at the dog park, what, 20 hours a day or something?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of close. No. I'm there at minimum twice a day, and then I might get there during the workday when I just need to kind of breathe and need some space.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it's just a place of solitude, but yet community for me. So I just absolutely adore it.
Awesome. Well, that is great. So what do you say to those owners who don't pick up their dogs number two?
You don't want to know. You don't want to know.
Do you get after them?
I do. Well, I tend to the park. So, my small group, because we have been there for so many years and we're there so much, we actually tend and care for the park. So, so we put up signs and and I take care of the doggy bags and the stations that are around the park. And so, yes, I won't hesitate to, just simply ask if they have a bag, and if they need one, they can find one, where the stations are. So yes, I'm a stickler. I'm a stickler for making sure that the park is for everyone, not just for those that.
That's great. Yeah. Now, if they ignored you, would you ever consider picking it up and throwing it at them?
No, but I also won't pick it up. I'm not going to pick up after other people. They're all adults, and so. Yeah.
Hey, we could have a whole show on dogs,
We could.
Excrement or whatever you want to call it. But anyway, well, hey, let's move on. Why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, Bernadette, professionally, and what are you currently working on?
Oh, wow. Ooh, great question. Well, professionally, I've kind of morphed from being a very structured corporate executive for most of my life, about 25, 30 years, went out on my own in 2008, actually not by choice. I was basically canned. And since then, I've evolved into not only a business and leadership mindset coach, helping small to corporate sized companies, but there's been a lot of creativity brought into my world as far as writing. So I've written books, and I just finished writing a film screenplay. I do a radio show. I do a web series of, just talking about things that really kind of get people all angst up and what they need to do to kind of shed that. And that I do through speaking and coaching and the radio and the videos and a lot of different content. So I have feet in kind of both the left side of the brain, analytical process, helping businesses start, manage, and grow, while at the same time I'm doing all this creative work that also is helping individuals, whether entrepreneurs or corporate professionals, to really kind of own their leadership style and to find what is the most effective and productive for them.
Wow, it sounds like you have your hand in a lot of stuff these days.
I do. That's why it's good to have a park for solitude.
Yes, to be able to decompress. So what seems to be the most rewarding out of all that you do, from speaking to coaching to your radio show and writing?
Well, I think when I can meld all of those things together when I'm helping someone, whether it's an individual or a group of people or even an audience, and when I see them physically, spiritually, emotionally, mentally just have an aha moment and really kind of either hear or feel something that they had not before, that allows them to open up and kind of consider a shift in their life, that just brings up so much joy and almost tears of joy, and just gets me so excited that I just want to continue doing it. So just helping other people really kind of find themselves is just what brings me so much joy and passion.
For sure, yeah, and that's a lot more long-standing than getting paid. Money is fine, but it's those stories that you hear of people making that change, or you being witness to it.
Correct.
And so that those really keep you going, especially when you're burned out, not feeling up to it, and you reflect on that, and it just gives you that extra energy to be able just to push through. And it's like, yeah, I know people are benefiting.
Yes.
So,
and a good part of that creativity, if I can just extend that, a great part of that creativity work I do isn't revenue generating yet, because when you write books or you're writing a screenplay, there's a whole process of now getting it into a state of being able to monetize it. But yet I can't even tell you when I know, when I know it's not even revenue generating, but it's just my passion, I have no issue with needing to kind of sacrifice for that period of time until I can monetize it, because I know it's so impactful to so many people.
Yeah, for sure. And you have to enjoy it. I think a lot of people are out there kind of chasing the money, and
Yes.
And a lot of times the money doesn't come for a while. So it's
The key
you'll find
is
out
the
real
chasing
quick.
piece of it. If they didn't chase it and they just kind of allowed it, themselves to breathe, it might come bigger and sooner than it's coming if they're chasing it.
Right. So what would be some tips that you would have for some new entrepreneurs, or maybe some kind of new entrepreneurs, so to speak, who are out there with some ideas, and do you have any resources or any tips for them along the way?
Absolutely. And I was right there with them back in 2008 when I went out on my own and had all these great ideas, just wasn't sure how to articulate them, let alone execute on them. So I would say first off and I tell this to a lot of people, to first really ground themselves in all of those great ideas, but why do they find that they're great ideas? Because when other people don't, they need to stand true to whether or not they really truly believe in that great idea. So first off, technically, I would go and buy a journal that you just devote to really trying to learn about yourself and what you want to do as you become a entrepreneur. And maybe you are a one-preneur right now, but putting those plans in place, putting those whys in place. And when I say whys, really saying to yourself, why do I think this is a great idea? Why am I so passionate about this particular thing? And why am I willing to make the sacrifices that I'm going to need to make, push through the fears that I'm going to have come up in myself in order to then become that entrepreneur that they want to become? So carry that journal with you and really just constantly ask questions to yourself about what's important to you, what's not important to you, why is it important, and what are you willing to do, sacrifice, compromise on, or even give up and walk away from in order for you to really pursue that goal, that dream, that business, that want. So first would be to really ground yourself in who you are and what's important to you before you'll have a lot of time to work on that functional part of the business, the processes, the procedures, the automation, the systems that need to be put into place. But at the same time, you won't, or you'll spend a lot of time and money, and in your words, Tim, chasing those things if you're really not grounded in what it is and why it is you want to be pursuing that goal or set of goals for yourself.
So it sounds like that why is really the foundation.
For me and the people that I've been able to work with and really see grow and establish themselves, I've had to get them out of their head, and this is going to sound corny, but into their heart, because you're right. They really need to understand what I call their why spot. They need to find it. And why I call it that is because, so many people will automatically respond like, well, I want to have, a legacy for my family, or I want to make more money, or I want to be out on my own. I want more flexibility. Those aren't the true whys. Those aren't the things that are going to keep them pushing through the hard times, the scary times, the naysayers that'll be out there. So they do have to spend a lot of time with the why they want to do this, because they're going to have to be able to respond in a way that allows them to keep moving forward without throwing their hands up and giving in too soon.
Wow, that's great. That's really powerful. And it sounds like back in 2008, you had a situation that you were kind of forced into working for yourself. But when did you realize you wanted to be an entrepreneur? Was it at that point, or was it well before that?
I think my father, I'm one of 12 children, and my father, before he passed at 85. And he went from corporate to being an entrepreneur himself. And I kind of always had that in the back of my mind growing up and emulating, how he just went about his business acumen. And so I always sensed that I would be out on my own at some point. However, to your question, the moment I was told that I was being fired, I'm talking the millisecond moment, I knew I was not going back to corporate. I didn't know what that really meant at the time. I just knew that it wasn't going to be the same old, and I would be willing to go and take on trying to figure out what that means and what that looks like. And then pursue what it was, even though it never materializes like you think it will. So you have to kind of play with it like Play-Doh and just continue to work at it. But I knew that moment that I was fired, it wasn't something that I was upset. And I certainly was like, what do you mean? I'm great. Why are you firing me? But at the same time, something inside me said, and I call them actually my God speaking moments. So, something inside me said, you're going to be just fine. You just need to figure out what's next. And so I just continued to listen to myself in the coming months. And immediately, though, I went and started a consulting/coaching business, because I had done that for about 25 years. I was a principal consultant and a mentor coach since I was in my 20s in corporate. So it was something that I knew really well. And therefore, I went and immediately started pursuing it.
What was the support like around you with friends and family? Did they look at you and go, Bernadette, go get another job? What are you doing?
Well, they did say that, but it was in the vein of, you're really good, in that environment, because they didn't really understand, because family and friends aren't with you at work. So they don't see what you're really like. They just see what you project to them when you come home, or when you go and hang out with them for dinner. So they didn't really see that my leadership style, the whole premise of my book and my film and everything that I do, that had to change. That had to change, and therefore. They thought it would just be kind of like, why are you walking away from something that you're so good and you were so successful at, not understanding what was really underlying that, which is I really needed to become a better person, and I really needed to get to know myself, and therefore I just knew that world was not where I wanted to be anymore.
Right.
So yes,
I guess most people just look at it from the surface and say, wow, you've got benefits and
Sure.
you're getting paid, but they don't really see that kind of underneath layer of, are you being fulfilled in what you're doing, which is so important.
Absolutely. And trust me, I like that security, and I like that paycheck, and I liked that, those benefits and whatnot. But that's when you really know that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, is when you're willing to walk away from all of that and risk everything. To pursue passion versus just a paycheck.
Right. And I think some people are kind of at that crossroads, and they're not sure whether they should completely make a jump or whether they should gradually kind of ease into it. Do you have kind of a view on that?
I do. Major lesson learned. And that is, if you have an opportunity right now, and say you're in corporate or you work for someone else in smaller or large business, and you have an opportunity to, do what we talked about, earlier, and that is to really assess the why, assess what it is that you would do and why would you do it. If you have an opportunity to do both of those things at the same time, and you don't have to necessarily have the rug pulled out from under you and go down that path without that safety net, I would tell you to stay where you are and really start working on establishing that business, establishing that plan, establishing that why, and take time, carve it out in your week. I learned very much so, and I still have to do it today, that there's things I have to compromise and give up at night and on the weekends if I want to be doing all the things that I'm doing. And so I tell my clients, or anyone that I speak to, my friends, my family, that, just this is your first place where you start having to compromise and give up some things. And that is to carve out time in your evenings or your weekends or your free hours that you would love to be with your family or hanging out on the couch. But if you really want to make a change and have something new and different, then you need to, and you have an opportunity to take some of those hours and put it toward crafting and defining and even working in that business. So, for instance, very quickly and it's a very basic example, however, I knew someone that he was a cyclist, a very active cyclist, and he loved everything about bicycles and cycling. And so he thought he'd go off and start a bike store and leave his corporate comfort. So I had suggested to him, why don't you go and work in a bike shop? And why don't you just do it part-time, even just tell the guy you don't even need to be paid, because he didn't need to at the time since he had a salary. And I said, and just kind of experience it. I said, the worst thing you would want to do is turn a passion or a hobby into a business that you learned not to like. And so if you have an opportunity as well to intern or to just kind of get into the mesh of the business, even if it's for a couple hours a week, so you can see if that is something that you would want to be doing, then you have that opportunity too, especially if you have a job that is currently paying you a salary before you have to kind of either be forced out or walk out and start risking your own bank account.
Yeah, well, I love that. Be able to learn more about yourself and about the business and area that you're thinking about going into, and get educated. And I think those are great messages. So I love that. Now, when you were growing up, what kind of messages did you receive about money and finance, how to make money or how to save it?
Ooh, great question. Well, again, I'm one of 12. So, and my parents were much older. My dad went through the Depression and World War II. And yet my mother lived on the other side of the tracks. And so she came from a very high society type of family. So the two of them came together and basically educated us on, hard work. You have to earn your keep. You definitely need to save, but it was more like the cash under the pillow or under the mattress. I don't know that my dad didn't own a credit card probably until he was in his 70s.
Wow.
And he wanted to start traveling and had a credit card mainly just for that. He paid cash for everything. And we definitely learned that we paid our way through high school. So we paid for our education by working in the school during the summers or working at his office, cleaning and whatnot, probably from the age of 10 or 11. So I kind of had this idea that, I had to work 24/7 if I wanted to feel as if I was deserving of the money I made, whether that was $5, an hour, or if it was, $500 an hour. And that created a lot of, angst. It created a lot of, just pure anxiety around never stopping. And if it was to stop, then I wasn't deserving of what it was that I was earning. So I was a workhorse for a good many decades.
Wow.
Yes,
Yeah.
as opposed to now, I know I provide great value in the work that I do, and therefore, and you have to allow time to breathe and time to disconnect and time to unplug, and you do have to have a life outside of your business, your clients, your vendors, your employees, and you come first is my new kind of mantra.
Right. Well, speaking of that, of having a life and doing other things to, aside from business, have you ever found yourself in a position where you were burned out and mentally you were struggling? And if so, can you share that?
Oh, sure. There has been probably 2 or 3 significant periods of my life. One, I was in my mid-20s, and I'd already been kind of a junior executive traveling back and forth up into New York and to Atlanta and I was down in Boca Raton, South Florida. And I was 24/7. I just felt that if I took a 5-minute break, I was going to miss something. I was going to be replaced, or I was, not going to appear as if I was deserving and worthy of what I was being paid. And it manifested itself in just complete breakdown. Leading up to that breakdown, and what I mean that is just exhaustion, like in bed, unable to get up for about a week. But leading up to that, it was really just kind of, drinking too much, hanging out with friends too much, 24/7. Either I was working or hanging out with friends, even if that was like 2 to 4 in the morning, and then just getting up at 4:30, 5 o'clock and going at it again. And then it came to, I was probably in my early 40s, and I'd now been traveling and flying and, racking up, the platinums of everything, and found myself wandering around in the Atlanta airport, bawling my eyes out because I could not find my car that was only about 10 feet away from me. Oh. And I was just so exhausted and so tired and so burned out and so heavy, burdened with just trying to always be on, that I just stood there bawling my eyes out until a security guard must have seen me on a camera or something. And he came and he said, what can I do to help? I'm like, help me find my car. It's got to be here somewhere. And he clicks the button and it was like right there. And so that kind of sent me to the bed as well. and just really making me realize that I needed to take some downtime and I needed to kind of just purge and really just release everything that I was feeling. Unfortunately, I kind of went right back into it. Once I re-energized, I went right back into it. Until that day, I was fired. And everything just shifted. And I just realized that I just could not do that to myself anymore, let alone you project out to other people that burnout, that frustration, that angst, that overwhelm. And it was impacting my family, my friends, my boyfriends, my social life, my employees, my team. And I knew right then and there I would need to make a change.
So you needed to really reset. So for you, it was just to kind of take a break and just kind of put everything on hold for a little while and just regroup.
But change. I needed a change, because if not, then what I would have done is gone right back into it like I had done very, cyclically.
And then that vicious cycle starts all over again.
Exactly. So I that comes to my, I needed to really confront what it is that I wanted, what my why was, and what I was working so hard for, and what I really wanted to be doing, as opposed to what I felt you could be really good at something, and yet that's not what brings you joy. That's not what brings you, excitement, and doesn't make you jump out of bed in the morning. And so there's a lot of things I'm really good at, but I just don't want to do them. So
I know the feeling.
So I learned to kind of really be honest about what I wanted to do, and that's what I'm doing now. And it's just such a liberating feeling to do that.
Sure. So it sounds like, that day that you were in the Atlanta airport in the parking garage, you're crying and just kind of feeling like you were just so burned out and, at your end of being able to manage everything around you. So going from that to being your low, what would you say is kind of one of your most fulfilling moments as an entrepreneur?
Oh, yeah. When I was in a hotel room in Las Vegas. And and it's too long of a story, but I was in a hotel room in Las Vegas, and we're at a entrepreneurial conference, and we all keep our rooms open because they also can be used as showrooms, so to speak. So I had my door open, and I had a banner outside that talked to my book title, and it's a very raw story about myself and that those years in corporate and those years of just feeling as if I needed to be on constantly, and therefore it manifested in a very negative, curt, tyrant of a leadership style. And I had been spending about a couple of months really talking my story prior to my book coming out, really talking my story and I found myself being very open, and I didn't hold back from acknowledging, confessing, admitting anything. And I was probably in front of several hundred people, if not 1,000 people throughout that time period. And I'm in my hotel room, and a woman comes in, and she's just tears running down her face, very calm, but tears running down her face. And she came in, she said, "Can I sit down?" I said, "Absolutely." I said, "Can I help? What's going on?" And she's like, "I never realized until right now kind of what I was putting myself through, and therefore everybody else around me." I said, "I don't know what you mean." And she said, "Well, you talk about your situation and that being, manifested out of your corporate experience. And I don't want to, it's not a downer on corporate, by the way, but your corporate experience." She said, "But everything you said about that angst and that insecurity and that feeling of uncertainty and that drive and that having to be on all the time." She said, I have been feeling that for so long, the minute I discovered I had breast cancer." And I was like, "What?" Like in my head, I was like, "Huh? How does my story relate to you?" So I just sat there and listened. And she just went on to share how, the moment she, was diagnosed with breast cancer, she went into victim mode. and she lashed out on everyone around her, and she internalized everything, and she became a very kind of miserable individual for a good year. And she fought everything that was being presented to her when it came to her diagnosis. She said, your words, your experience of just really recognizing that, and then just being okay with letting it go and taking a breath and finding kind of peace within yourself, she said, was exactly what I needed to hear, to then realize that I need to be open and realize that I can't play a victim if I want to heal and if I want to be cured. And that just sent me to my knees. It sent me to my knees in tears of joy. I just was so moved by that it actually justified all the hard work I'd been through. It was probably from 2008, and this was early 2011. And so I had worked very hard to start this business and to find my voice and to learn my story and to share it with others to help them. And I just didn't know if it was meaningful to anyone and if I was on the right track. And that conversation, I repeat a lot, because that conversation just told me that everything I was sacrificing, everything I was giving up, and everything I was enjoying, I was doing what I was meant to be doing.
Wow, such a powerful story. And it made me think of Wayne Dyer, and he often said, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Yes.
And you were the teacher for her. And when she picked up your book and she was ready.
Right.
And that is just incredible. And that makes all that hard work and sacrifice that you made all the worthwhile.
Right.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Well, that is excellent. Thank you very much, Bernadette, for sharing that story. And you've been such a wonderful guest. We've come to the end of the show, but before we leave, I'd like you to tell the listeners how they can find you online, your website and your book and all that good stuff.
They can find me online, definitely at balloffireconsulting.com. And you can also find my book there. It's also on Amazon. And if you were to Google Bernadette Boas, you're going to see I have a number of Facebook pages and Twitter pages and Pinterest and LinkedIn, all under Bernadette Boas, and at the same time with Ball of Fire Consulting. So I'd love to have you reach out to me.
Yeah, and it's Bernadette Boas, but it's spelled Boas. Is that correct?
Correct.
Right, but pronounced like Boas, like the speakers. Balloffireconsulting.com. Well, that's wonderful. Thank you very much, Bernadette. It has been a pleasure, and I look forward to staying in touch with you.
You as well, Tim. Thank you so much for having me.
Want more entrepreneurial tips? Go to timlaskus.com.